Welcome back, everyone. So, as you're very much aware, yesterday the DA in Idaho in the case against Chad Daybell has decided, along with his special prosecutor, that they are going to file the death penalty and file charges of capital murder in the death of JJ and Tylee and Tammy. Now, in addition to that, Chad has a litany of other charges that are still pending against him as well. On top of that, the DA, the charges that were dismissed last week, he still can refile at any point between now and the time that the trial starts. Chad's trial is due to start November 8th, 2021. Set aside a court schedule right now of 5 weeks to actually hold the trial. But the question that we're here today to answer is, has the tide changed against Mr. Daybell? If he is convicted of the capital murder and sentenced to death in the state of Idaho, what will his life be like? Let's take a look at that today and see if we can get a little bit more information about what his life will be like, and will he possibly roll over on Lori Vallow now that the DA has decided to file death penalty charges against the man. First, I'd like to read an actual statement that comes from Mr. Woods in the filing of the charges against Chad Daybell and seeking the death penalty for him in the state of Idaho on the charges of murdering JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. We determined that the nature and magnitude of these crimes warrants the possibility of the highest possible punishment. These hideous, horrendous, and atrocious and cruel crimes were committed for numeration and show disregard for human life. Chad Daybell poses a continued threat to society if not held accountable to the fullest extent of the law of the state of Idaho. Mr. Woods certainly not holding anything back at this point in his statement and why he is seeking the death penalty charges against Chad Daybell. Obviously, we do not know all the information in this case. I'm sure that the plethora of information that was turned over from the Chandler Police Department probably added a great bit of fuel to the fire, because there was a lot more in that discovery that you wouldn't believe if you read it yourself. Because if you even heard about this case before, it's hard to actually follow it some days, and it's really hard to believe some of the things that really happened in this case. There are so many twists and turns throughout the entire thing, especially when you look at Lori Vallow's life. But Chad Daybell, if he is sentenced to death, if he is given the death penalty, and in the court of public opinion, we've already prosecuted him, but in the court of law, he has not been prosecuted. But let's take a look at, if he is prosecuted, what will his life be like? In the state of Idaho, the longest serving person on death row has been there for 37 years, ladies and gentlemen. He has filed appeal after appeal after appeal. Some of his appeals actually took longer because they were actually heard in court. But he has been there for 37 years. The shortest term ever served on death row in the state of Idaho was 3 years. 3 years, and the reason why that one was so short was because the inmate had signed away all possibility of any petition or fight at all for a clemency or anything. He gave up. The day that they actually found him guilty, he said, "Look, just go ahead and execute me for the crimes that I committed." He was only on death row for 3 years because there is an automatic appeal in the state of Idaho. The first appeal of the sentence is automatic. On death row, Chad Daybell will be locked down for 23 hours a day. 23 hours a day. The only time he is allowed to leave, would be allowed to leave his actual cell, is to visit an attorney, to visit medical staff, or to take a shower, or to go outside to a rec yard. It is an enclosed rec yard. It is exactly 10 feet by 10 feet with concrete brick cinder blocks on 3 sides and a metal mesh roof, so nothing can get in and nothing can get out. But that is the 1 hour, and you serve the rec by yourself. No other inmates. They only allow 1 out at a time. When they are being transported from their actual cell to the rec yard or to medical or to see an attorney, they are put into a 3-point harness and shackles. The ankles are handcuffed and shackled together, and then a chain comes up around the waist to the actual wrists, which are shackled and handcuffed to the actual waist itself. Very little movement of arms in that actual restraint. His actual prison cell on death row is 12 feet by 7 feet. It is a single occupancy cell. He will not have another inmate. He will not see another inmate while he is in his cell. There is a little tiny slot door where they are passed through their food, and then once they are done, they retrieve the trays from them, the silverware, and they keep their cup. But they are in their cell for 23 hours a day. The only time he will see someone as they put through the food to him. Medical. When seeing medical, it is only on every other Thursday unless it's an immediate need. He is on some type of medication, he will see a male nurse. No females at all. So if he wants to see someone, he's going to have to use his porthole in order to see somebody else. Now, when it comes to visitation on death row, no visitation is allowed for death row inmates other than their attorneys and immediate family and then there is a pause for the first 90 days after arriving on death row. No one besides attorneys are allowed to see them and medical staff. So the family must wait a minimum of 90 days before they can have their first visitation with Chad on a single spot on one side of a plexiglass window where they must pick up the phone and talk to each other. The same thing goes for attorneys. No individual private meeting rooms at all for those who are condemned to die. They meet through plexiglass. If papers need to be handed from an attorney to the client or client to the attorney, it is done through, they hand it to a guard. A guard then walks around, closes one security door, opens a second security door, and then hands it off to another guard. That guard then hands it to whoever it's going to. But there is no hand-to-hand contact at all. That you do not get to see anybody through, and touch anyone. You are locked down. You are being punished, ladies and gentlemen. This is not Club Med. This is serious business. And those who are on death row in the state of Idaho, most of them said they would much rather die than spend another year on death row in Idaho. It is that bad. The food they rate at the lowest possible level. The state of Idaho says it's quality food and it meets all nutritional values that it needs to acquire, but they do not get anything extra. Commissary and on death row, they are only allowed a total of 13 items on death row. Unlucky number 13, ladies and gentlemen. 13 items of snacks and other personal items. They are not allowed anything, extra beyond the fact that they get a small portable plastic television that is see-through. It is made of see-through plastic, and that is it. They get no personal radios, no Walkman, no special sneakers, no shoelaces, no belts, nothing. Anything that they can use to self-harm themselves is taken away from them. They do not get it. According to the state of Idaho, statistics on inmate costs. To keep an inmate, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, assuming that they do 25 plus years in the state penitentiary in Idaho, it costs up to $1 million to actually house them in prison for 25 years. To actually execute someone and pay for the appeals and the appeals process, and the state of Idaho must pick up the attorney's costs, in 97% of the cases. The appeals process, they must pick up the tab for those attorneys. It costs upwards of $5 million to execute an inmate in the state of Idaho who is on death row who has to go through all the appeals. Otherwise, it costs $1 million to serve out a 25-year term. Day-to-day life is just like solitary confinement. Those who are in normal prison, who get sent to the hole, see more people and have more contact on a weekly basis with individuals than those on death row in the state of Idaho. Chad's life in prison, if convicted and given the death sentence, is nothing that he's going to want. These two selfish, twisted, maniacal individuals did what they wanted because it fit their purpose, their twisted purpose. Chad will pay. If he doesn't pay in this lifetime, he will burn for an eternity for his crimes against Tylee, JJ, Tammy, and everybody else who his life touched. Burn in hell, Chad.